Life and Death. The workshop will begin in 20 minutes, 10 o'clock sharp Taiwan time. Please make sure to turn your cameras on and microphones off and use the IBLYAC virtual background. The workshop will start at 10 sharp Taiwan time. Thank you.
下一刻，这1秒钟，我们继续勇敢的追梦。地球上每一个角落，呼吸爱为世界加油。站在这美丽的世界，悲剧怨恨力量在改变，有愿力。3号与4给，自由自在，宇宙大无限。
不要怀疑，要开始相信 ，The power always in me。不要怀疑，要充满自信，准备成为耀眼的一颗星。打开心胸，别害怕逃避，自信自在，力量在心。打开心胸，听灵魂声音，跟着旋律舞动年轻。
做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。
面对无常、危机与惶恐，我要唱出生命的不同。当你听见我 rap 歌曲，感动声音正在 say hello， 你我迈向美丽的世界，没有畏惧，大胆做改变，有愿力。3号与4给，一起行动，宇宙大无限。
不要怀疑，要开始相信，其实平淡生活也很硬。不要怀疑，要充满自信，擦亮周遭每个人眼睛。打开心胸，接受你自己，大口呼吸快乐的空气。打开心胸，唤醒心灵，甩开华丽自现的谜。
做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。
抛开麻木现实和伪装，我们学习给人的力量，相信黑夜背后有阳光，信仰点燃了心中的光芒，放下自我，超越了极限，成就喜悦生命的色彩，慈悲喜舍感恩大愿心，绽放自在身心的力量，一句吉祥心存善念，人间净土处处有春风，一念感恩心中放光，智慧清净人世皆善美。3号4给，融入生活，体会生命真实的感动。3号4给，一起行动，涌出人间幸福的梦。
做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。做好事，说好话，存好心，给人信心，给人希望，给人方便欢喜。
好啦。
Auspicious greetings, everyone. Welcome to join the workshop phase, Wisdom in Facing Life and Death. The workshop will begin in 15 minutes. Please make sure to turn your cameras on and microphones off and use the IBLYAC virtual background. The workshop will start at 10 sharp Taiwan time. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening, maybe good afternoon. I'm the MC today of this workshop, Wisdom in Facing Life and Death. Let's see. We have 28 members here now. Can you turn your cameras on so I can see you guys? Hello. Hello, Xingyun, is it? Hi, Xingyun. And oh, I see some guys from USA and Australia. And I see Mei Fong. Hello, Wei Wen. And oh, Mei Fong's from Canada. What time is it in Canada now?
It's almost 10.
Almost.
Yeah, so it's like the reverse of Taiwan time.
Oh. Fantastic. And David. Hello, David. And Admiel.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So happy to see you guys. And oh, we have some guys that are not turned the cameras on yet. Okay, that's called the name. Oh, hello, Danny. Oh, and okay, that's hard for me. A young person from USA, and his name is Gerardo Abraham Vera. Is that right? Hello. Welcome, welcome. I'm wondering. So this topic is very interesting. Wisdom in facing life and death. Anyone want to share why you want to choose this topic? You can raise your hand or just open your microphone and share. We have 2 minutes. Anyone? Maybe Amir?
Hello, good morning again. Yeah, and good evening for those who are in another side of the world. Yep. Okay, so I chose this workshop because the pandemic made me realize that life is very impermanent. Yeah, like because I'm so attached with everything. Yeah. So I think this workshop will help me realize new things or old things that, are really important for me and for everyone else. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. That's right. And it's a hard time. So we need to learn how to have a Buddhist point of view, the wisdom, and to face the death. And of course, there's life and all sickness. Right. Very good. And I believe our lecturer today will answer the questions. And we're very excited. So for those who just joined the workshop today, let me remind you again. And this is the workshop Wisdom in Facing Life and Death. And it will be conducted all in English. And we will begin in 5 minutes. So please turn your cameras on so the lecturer can see your face and we can have more interaction today. But please make the microphones off and use our IBLYAC virtual background. And we'll start the workshop at 10 sharp. Thank you. And maybe anyone else want to share his or her talk? Hello, Nadine. Madden from Australia or from Oceania. Hello, Pepe and Wanyo.
号，做好事，说好话，存好心，平安就是我们的人间宝，人间最美好13号，人间最美13号。
Hello，俊星，这个星。
好心，平安就是我们的人间宝，人间最美好13号。
Good morning, everyone.
说好话，慈悲爱语如东洋，存好心，诚意善愿好运到，3年清净真好，做好事举手之劳功德妙，说好话，慈悲爱语如东洋，存好心，诚意善愿好运到，3年清净真好，做好事举手之劳功德妙，说好话，慈悲爱。
So our lecture today is ready, and let me introduce me a bit here. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Venerable, and all the 4-1Us online today, auspicious 3 days. I'm the MC of this workshop today. I am Lily from Yat Zhonghua Yonghe subdivision. Welcome everyone. Very nice to see you. Very happy. Okay. And so this workshop is very special. We're going to talk about life and death. We know we have different experiences in life, right? We were born and grew up in this world. We have experienced sickness and probably encountered death of our relatives or acquaintances. But as the Buddha taught, in life, there is suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death, and that it is unavoidable. So how do we see the suffering properly? Do we have any preparation or arrangement beforehand? And how do we not be afraid of facing birth, old age, sickness, and death? And today we're very, very fortunate to have an expert on the study of life and death here. And he is Dr. Zheng Guangzhi, Dr. Chen. And he's the Vice Committee Director of BLIA World Headquarters, Lay Dharma Lecturer, and the Teacher Fellowship Committee. Dr. Chen is also a Senior Lecturer in Medical Education and the Internationalization Lead of Griffith School of Medicine in Australia. He received his medical training in Taiwan, Kaohsiung Medical University, and his PhD from Griffith University School of Applied Psychology, focusing on grief and loss support training. And I found that Dr. Chen has published 2 books about life and death, at least in BLIA, using the teaching of Venerable Master Xing Yun. You know, it's Sen Si Zhi Wu Tiao Tai Gong. And Dr. Chen has been giving a lot of speeches to the public on how to think and act with wisdom towards every, let's say, come and go. I'm sure Today, he'll give us some light to the questions about life and death that I mentioned above. So are you guys ready? I'm sure you can't wait any longer to Dr. Chen sharing today. So let's have a round of applause to invite our lay Dharma lecturer, Dr. Zheng Guangzi, to lead us this session on wisdom in facing life and death. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the MC. It's a privilege today to be able to come and talk to you on the topic about the wisdom in facing life and death. Before we start, can we just have a quick show of, I just need to know where you're coming from. So if you have listened to my presentation before, please reply 1 on the chat. If you've never had my presentation before, please type 2. So I'll get a quick idea of, okay. So there's a good mixture of 1 and 2. Thank you very much. So that gives me an idea. Okay, so the next thing is, like I had a meeting with the MC earlier. I was like, the fact that it's actually 12 o'clock now in Brisbane, Australia, 12 noon, so not 12 midnight. So I feel for the Canadian participant, you say it's 10 o'clock now. So it's like by the time we finish, it'll be nearly midnight for you. So the fact that we're here on a Sunday, I really like to answer your questions instead of me going on for a presentation for 1.5 hours. Because if we were to do that, we could have easily done that with me recording the presentation and you listening it online, online learning. And so please, at any time, if you have any question, just type it into the chat. In fact, I'm going to do a bit of thank you for the MC for the introduction, but I'm going to do my own introduction just a little bit so that while I'm doing that, if there's any question that comes to you at the front of life and death, please feel free to just put it in the chat. I've been talking about this topic since 1998. So I wouldn't say that there are questions that I've never answered before, but pretty much it's been 1998. So it's been 24 years. So I'm really eager to answer any question that you have. Okay, so I'm going to do my part of the sharing now for my presentation. So just bear with me. Okay. So can you see my PowerPoint? Yep, brilliant. So first of all, it's traditional in Australia to do, when you do anything important, you have to acknowledge the traditional custodian, because Australia is an immigrant country, which means we are not the first land owner or occupier of this land. We share this with the first people who has 60,000 years of history. So it's actually a privilege to be in the place to share this kind of traditional wisdom. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land on which we're meeting and pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So I invite you to do the same at whichever land that you're at, because acknowledgement and acceptance is the first step to dealing with death anxiety and all the emotion around death and dying. So I hope in my presentation you sort of worked out that death and dying is not a separate issue. It's actually the issue, and it's not like, oh, I'll put on my death and dying cap and think like, how do I do death and dying? No, it's actually, how do you do life? If you do life in an ideal way, then you'll have less challenges when it comes to death and dying. Okay. So my background, I was born in Malaysia in a lovely city called Ipoh. It's famous with its limestone caves. And when in all my presentation, I always put that picture of that little boy at the corner. That is the first time I attended a speech competition, let's say, outside of the school. We have to go out and talk. I think I was 1 or 2 years old. not one year, elementary school, year 1 or year 2. So I would be 7 or 8. And I actually forgot my presentation halfway. I was shivering on the stage, didn't know what to do, can't remember, I had a mind blank. Okay. So the reason I put it up there is now I am a public speaker, a Lay Dharma lecturer, the MC. You found the 2 books that was published by Malaysia for Wangzan and Taiwan for Wangzan. I actually have 5 books. So yeah, the other 3 is a publisher in other places. I've written over 300 articles in on death and dying, not serious journal research article. It's just well, I was privileged to be given a column in the best-selling female Chinese magazine in Malaysia for 17 years to write about death and dying. So every 20 days, I have to write an article of death and dying for someone who is doing their hair or doing their nails so that they can read while they're doing that. So that's me from Ipoh. And I graduated from Kaohsiung Medical University in 1998. It was a 7 years program for medicine, so it's a you know your usual bachelor degree, but we graduated with that medical doctor. Second year into the 7-year program, I realized I don't really want to be a doctor because I'm not enjoying this process. You know, this whole memorizing, rote learning. I just didn't like it. And when I was doing my internship, I was being bullied. That is another thing that really put me off clinical medicine. So while I was in that process, the issue of death and dying is very pressing for me because my grandmother died when I was a 4th-year medical student. And this is my maternal grandmother, mom of my mom. And then my grandfather, the father of my dad, passed away in my 7th year, the final year of my medical study when I was an intern. So death and dying is a huge issue. It's like this puzzle that I want to resolve. There's no pandemic, there's nothing. It's just generally life challenges. So I then really luckily, after I finished my medical internship, I got accepted into Nanhua University. So Nanhua University is the university founded by our grandmaster, Xing Yun. And so I was really lucky because at the beginning of Nanhua University set up, there was I didn't have to pay any tuition fees. Not just me, everyone doesn't have to pay for any tuition fees. So that's where I did my master's degree in life and death studies. Okay, so my focus is on death awareness education, because in life we went through university or high school or any education that you go through. They teach you all sorts of things, but none of the education actually teach you about death and dying. Okay, there's one thing that they don't teach you. So that became my interest. I decided to make that my master's research. So my research looked into the death attitude of vocational high school student in Taiwan. I did a 900-hour questionnaire of 900-hour participants and analyzed how do they look at death and dying. And that was my master thesis. So, okay, by now I'm expecting some pop up on the chat. If you have any questions, it's quite unlikely that you don't have any question by now, like, what is life and death studies? Okay, so anyway, like I said, this is supposed to be an interactive session. I'll answer a question, but you have to ask so that I can answer. In Buddhism, we say 大叩大名,小叩小名,不叩不名. So Dharma lectures should be like a bell, a lovely brass bell, or gong, that you hit it harder, it resonates louder. If you don't hit it, what a shame. Like it is what it is. So from the perspective of death and dying, imagine this workshop is going to die in another 1 hour and 20 minutes. We started with the birth happened 10 minutes ago. It's going to die in 1 hour and 20 minutes. You might not see me for the rest of your life. You might not, and I might not see you for the rest of your lives, because who knows what's going to happen. So you got another 1 hour and 20 minutes to ask whatever burning question that you have, of a so-called content expert on death and dying with 23 years of experience. I don't think you come across people like that quite often, unless, you know, you regard funeral directors as content expert. That's different. There's a lot of funeral parlor around that you could just go in and ask some question. That is if you can get past them trying to sell you a package or a coffin or a place to put your body and urn or whatever thing like that. But this is not that case. So anyway, you decide, oh, that's one response on the chat. Oh, I love it. Why shouldn't one fear death? So Emil, can you elaborate, where did you get the notion from that people should not be afraid of death? I hope for the past 11 minutes, I did not allude you to that you shouldn't be afraid of death. Can you just elaborate a bit more? I'll continue talking and please elaborate, okay? So, and by the way, Emil, can you just type where you're from too? I really like to know my participants, where they're coming from. So when I finished my master's degree in life and death study, that is 2001. And of course, everyone around me say like, what are you going to do with your life? Honestly, what are you going to do with your life? Like you finish a medical degree, but you don't want to be a doctor. Okay, you know, being a doctor is above you, below you, that you didn't want to be a doctor. You went and studied this Master of Life and Death Studies, you know, are you going to, you know, work in the funeral business? So what are you going to do? So in order to shut up the village, I went and studied my PhD in Australia. So while I was studying PhD in Australia, I started teaching in the School of Medicine. So these are my students. Some of them are already starting to be trained as a specialist. And the lower picture are my colleagues. They're all medical educators. Okay, so now there's 3 things in the chat. Oh, I'm getting very excited. Okay, so so Amelia from the Philippines. You haven't, okay, I'm asking it from experience. I've seen scared of death. Just let me, I so enjoy answering questions. I have been scared of death and I don't even want to talk about it with anyone. Usually, that's very, very common, Amil. That is the story of my life. No one wants to talk about it. That's why I did a master's degree in it. That's why I make a whole career out of it. So it is very common that people do not want to talk about it. But the problem is we have a crisis now, because in the past, for death and dying, this, when I say in the past, like say, you know, 40 years ago, you don't really need to talk much about death and dying, because 40 years ago, there is a lot of structure in place. You have the support of the community. You have people's faith in the elders, in their religion, in their cultural background, that there is a structure in place to support you through death and dying. When someone dies in your household, the whole village will come. The auntie, uncles will give you unsolicited advice that's going to annoy the hell out of you, but it's going to be very helpful for you in that process. Okay, that is 40 years ago. Nowadays, people don't believe in anything. So people are very skeptical, like, oh, you said there's life after death, prove to me where there's life after death. And you're going to prove to me if there's a ghost, catch a ghost, put it in a bottle and show me to me that there's a ghost, then I'll believe in you. So because we do not believe in anything, we are in a crisis. We suddenly, we are left alone to try to deal with a question that human race has been trying to answer for thousands of years. Can you imagine the anxiety around that? Like, you know, we get so many generations of our ancestors and everyone, all these wise people, all these, you know, spiritual practitioner, all these high level Buddhist monks, Zen master, you know, they use their whole life to engage in the topic and come up with their experience of what their interpretation. Hey, you know, like, no, yeah, no, don't worry about that. I'm trying to sort this out myself in the really short lifespan I have for maybe, like, I don't know, 70 to 80 to 90 years. You're going to be very, very stressed. Okay, so it's normal to be stressed about death and dying. And hopefully, after this presentation, it will give you some ways, different ways to think about death and dying. Okay, so Nadine is from Auckland. The study makes you feel more comfortable with the concept of death. Hi, San Francisco, from San Francisco. Ding Wuxuan, Wuxuan, thank you. Did it help? Okay, so I'm a university academic, so it's very hard for me to not use big words when I talk. I mean, I try really hard to not do that. As you can see, I'm looking for, where can I find a piece of something that I can write on so that I can show you. So in education theory, there is this thing that's like cognitive learning, psychomotor learning, affective learning. Okay, so cognitive learning is pretty much still what we are doing at this very point, which is I'm talking, yeah, making sense. It's cognitive. Psychomotor is when you get to do stuff. You do things with your hand. That's psychomotor learning. Affective learning is the learning related to your emotions. So the common thing to talk about affective learning is, how does this make you feel? Okay, because feelings is linked to your value system. Our value system and our worldview actually influence how we feel. Because when there's something that is contradicting with our worldview, we'll have a stronger response. When it's not, we'll have we wouldn't be bothered. Okay, so like for instance, if you drive on the highway and someone just cut you off without a signal, that's going to piss you off, isn't it? You're going to be really angry about that, because your value system and your worldview is people should be nice when they drive. When they're not nice, I'm angry. Okay, so that is affective awareness. And affective learning is actually very important, and most of the time not being properly taught, because teaching about affective learning is actually one of the harder thing. I wouldn't say hardest, one of the harder thing, but I think it's actually the hardest, because cognitive is easy. A plus B equals to C. Figure your way around it. Okay. Psychomotor is do as I do and repeat again, and do as I do and repeat again, and you will eventually master the skill. Do as I do and repeat again. Affective learning is, how does that make you feel? I don't know. How will I know what does it make you feel? Okay, just relax, a few more deep breaths. How does this make you feel? Oh, I feel this emotion. Why did you feel that? I don't know why did I feel that. Why are you asking so much? Are you psychoanalyzing me? No, it's affective learning. I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. Okay, so affective learning is what I focus on teaching in the university. And at this point, I think a lot of the participants was like, where is he going with this? I want to know about life and death. I want to know what to do when I die. I want to know what happened after I die. Why is he going on about how do I feel? How you feel is the key to all those questions. I'll tell you later. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's the key to all those questions. How do you feel? And why do you feel like that? And what are you going to do with how you feel? That is the key to all those questions. So back to Mu Xuan. Did studying life and death make you feel more comfortable? Intellectually, I felt comfortable. Emotionally, not yet. All right, emotionally, because it's just intellectual. We all knows best. Like, you know, we're all Buddhists. The fact that you're here in a youth Buddhist conference, you will know about Buddhism. You would have the experience of when the teaching is the teaching, but your challenge is still your challenge. As then you realize, oh, not sure if this is really working. I know the grandmaster say, 有佛法就有办法. That means, you know, when there is Buddhism, there is a way, you'll be able to find a way. But there are times that it's still going to be very challenging. Okay, so studying life and death studies helped me intellectually, but it did not help me effectively to manage the emotion around death and dying. So yes, I was more comfortable intellectually, but not comfortably overall. Okay, so Yuan Rou. So Yuan Rou from Melbourne, how are you, Melbourne? I hope it's not too cold down there. So how should we deal with the grief of passing of a loved one whom you have last met more than a year ago? Welcome to my world. My father passed away exactly 1 year according to the lunar calendar today. And I will talk about that. And hopefully that is going to answer your question about how to manage that. I'm writing it down. So grief during absence, okay? So I'm really it's really unfortunate that could have happened to you or the people around you, you know. It's been a horrific reality that we're in. Okay, Li Chun, where are you from, Li Chun?
From Zhonghua.
Oh, Zhonghua. Okay, so we know we will die one day, but we don't feel that. Yeah, well, it's right that you say that. You don't feel that, but it's not, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So should we always have the thought in mind that I will die one day? You don't have to think about it. You just need to live as if it is. People actually think that will be so depressing, that, you know, that I if I think that I'm going to die, live like I'm going to die, you know, I'm going to die one day, it's going to be depressing. That is actually not true. That's actually not true. That is the initial reaction you will get. Okay, when you first have to face with your own mortality, that is the initial reaction. Oh, I cannot live life thinking that I have to die. Eventually, you so should live life thinking that you're going to die. Imagine if I didn't tell you just now that this workshop is going to die in another 1 hour and 9 minutes. Would you have put your questions up? You probably just sit there and say, oh, whatever, you know, another, yep, another lecturer, yep. Okay, I'll show here just in case my supervisor come in and they know that my camera is on, so that I've been doing my thing, you know, take my box, okay, yeah, whatever. But no, the moment that I tell you that this is going to die in another 1 hour and 8 minutes, you can see that I'm doing countdown. I actually quite really enjoy doing countdown because it makes it so real. When you make it so real, you have no choice but to be fully engaged. So just imagine applying the wisdom of death into your everyday life. If that means that you're fully engaged with every moment of your life, what is bad about that? Shouldn't you be doing that anyway? How is that going to be a bad outcome? That you're fully engaged in life every moment because you know that it might be the last moment. Yep. So first of all, you start with distant relationship. Okay. Because I do not know majority of you. So if I don't get to see you for the rest of my life, I'm not going to be crying over it. I'm really sorry, but that is the reality. Same to you. Once this workshop is over, you leave the Zoom, you join another thing, yada, yada, yada. You have things that you have to do. Who is Dr. Chan? Who is, oh, that funny guy. Yeah, he's funny. That's about it. You know, I'll be lucky if I get a comment that he's funny. Okay. So that's about it. So it's good to start with practicing with situation that is you're not so attached to. In that way, you realize that, okay, the only way out is to go totally in. There is no other way out. Okay, a lot of quotes and things that I say is going to be totally contradicting each other. The only way out is to go totally in. So the only way out of your anxiety about death and dying and separation is to immerse yourself into the experience of life with mindful awareness and continuously cultivation of compassion. There you go. End of the workshop. Workshop done. That is the key. Well, important things are normally not complicated. It just takes a really, really, really long time to apply, and it'll be very, very, very challenging, and a constant reflection before it becomes yours. For example, 3G, okay? Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Simple, isn't it? 3G. Very hard to apply. Very, very hard to apply. Yep, because it's so often you would say something that is actually not good words. You'll be thinking not good thoughts, and there are deeds that you did that might not be good deeds. It is very, very difficult to apply. So yeah, good things are not complicated. The complication is how reluctant we are to apply it, how difficult it is. Okay, so yes, and then we have Xinyi. What is a Jamboard, Xinyi? I have no idea what is a Jamboard. This is showing my age. I'm 51. I've been around for more than half a century, so I'm really sorry. Is that an opinion poll where you could actually get people to just answer the question, then you know what they're talking about? No idea. Okay, so Wu Xian again, I'm curious about life and death studies. What concepts are taught when you teach about life and death studies? So Wu Xian, in a nutshell, life and death studies is about encouraging conversation. It's not about saying that, you know, this is what life and death is about. No. It's about understanding all different interpretation about life and death so that you can create a platform for conversation, which is exactly what we're doing now. Okay, so Meiqi, how did you open up conversation about death and dying? And how do you think can we open this kind of conversation with family adults, since the very controversial topic like this seems so taboo? For example, I recall when I was very young, my parents freaked out when I talked about things like life insurance. Okay, Meiqi, this is a very common challenges. And I'm giving you this gift today that when you get home, not immediately today, but when you want to bring up the topic with your parents or family around you, you can use me as your excuse. He said, today I listened to this workshop and this talk. There's this really funny guy talking about death and dying. Like, honestly, like, it's so weird because the topic is supposed to be so scary, but he's just smiling the whole time. It's almost creepy. and then you can say that, and he said all these really strange things that, you know, like the way out is to go the way in, and you know, like it just makes me think about a lot about death and dying. It makes me start to think about, you know, have I done this, have I done that? So you talk about yourself, and then you turn to them and say, what about you? What are your thoughts? Okay, so this is the point where they freak out. Okay, they'll freak out and say, what is wrong with you? You know, this Buddha-like young adult division is putting all this weird concept into your head, you know, they could freak out, but that's fine. Your first attempt, it's okay. Let it go. Okay, you have to desensitize the people around you. It's not how I am desensitizing you now. See, I keep telling you that the workshop is going to die. The workshop is left with 1 hour and 2 minutes now. So 30 minutes is already gone, dead, 30 minutes dead, okay? 1 hour and 2 minutes left. So that's how you desensitize them. Then after that, you make use of every opportunity every now and then, okay? Every now and then, not every day, okay? Because the people around you are lay people. Lay people are very fragile, okay? They're not Buddhist. They don't talk about impermanence and all those things on a constant basis. They're very fragile. They held on to this self-create reality that is actually not real about the self and the relationship of the self towards the external world, which is all mythical. They held on to that. So you can only rock the boat every so often. Okay, because you do not want to totally freak them out. The other thing to really do is, how are you role modeling it? Imagine if I was like really serious, I look very worried, somewhat borderline depressed when I'm talking about death and dying, you'd be like, oh, honestly, why did I even come into this workshop? You know, like, it's horrible enough, death and dying, and then now this person is talking like, oh, it just makes me feel even worse. So you have to think about, how did you role model yourself around the issue of death and dying, around the people around you? If you're not doing a good role model, of course they don't want to talk to you about it because they think that you're going to freak out. Okay, so now, after you use me as an excuse, every now and then when you are venturing through life, the thing is, I'm really sorry to do this to all of you, because once it's done, I can't take it back, okay? So, but I'm still going to do it. So the opportunity to talk about death and dying is constant. It's everywhere. You just need to switch on the news. Switch on the news. There's always people dying, one way or the other. And then you could say, like, for instance, I mean, unfortunately, really sadly, like, even though I'm a funny guy, this is serious, like what is happening around the world, no matter it's a flood, it's an earthquake, landslide, whatever, it is tragic. Not to mention the war in Ukraine. That is not right, okay? It's not right. And when you see the news about a shopping center in the middle of Ukraine being hit by a missile fired 800 kilometers away from the Black Sea, okay? 20 over people got killed. And one of the saddest story was this mom who was bringing her baby girl, not baby girl, like I think the child is like 3 or 5 years old, for a speech therapy session. And just 1 hour before the session, the mom was posting their own video online about them going to see the speech pathologist. Then the missile hit and the girl is dead. Mom is now critically ill in ICU, and the doctor refused to tell the mother that the daughter is dead. Okay, because the doctor think that if they tell her the news, she will die. She will lose the will to want to continue to live. See, look at your facial expression. You're all like, oh, why are you telling me something so sad? Because that would be an opportunity to talk about death and dying. And yeah, I mean, you'll be like, what? Like, okay, well, I'm giving you the formula. I'm giving you the formula. The formula is, this is so unexpected. I want to know what to do if I was in that situation. And when I reflect on it, I felt that I need to do A, B, C, and D. And then you turn to your beloved family members and say, what about you? So that is the rocking of the boat. What about you? What about you? What about you? So that is how you have that conversation, Meichi, every now and then, okay, not often. Otherwise, no one is going to talk to you. But hey, I'm going to have pictures here that you got hundreds and thousands of people sitting around listening to me talk. They all know that I'm the talking about death and dying person, and they still come. Okay. So, Bingxin, in the US, there has always been and continues to be a lot of awful crimes against innocent people. Although I do not know these people, I still feel pain, anger, and sadness when thinking about this situation. How should we process thoughts about life and death in this case? So Celine, thank you very much. Celine from Chicago, thank you so much. Can we just spend 30 seconds, okay, in silence to think about all these people that is victim of heinous crime being done to them that they did not do anything to deserve that. Let's just take 30 seconds of our time. Oh, 30 seconds. Thank you very much for your participation. So why did I do that? Why did I do that? Okay. So it's unfortunate that we have to do this online, because if we're live, then I can get your answer. But now I know there's 4 more messages. If I ask a question and you answer, I have to scroll back down and then come back in. It's just not going to work. So as an educator, my education philosophy is student-centered education, which means I take the student along with me as if that they're also an educator. So I constantly actually explain what I'm doing to my students so that hopefully they learn that. And then when they become educators, they can teach that to other people. And for you, you might say that I'll never be an educator, but I teach in a medical school. All my students are going to become educators because they're doctors. So why did I do that? I was using that as an opportunity to demonstrate that sometimes there are huge challenges in life where you cannot immediately do anything about it. Okay, you need to take time to take in the situation and to be mindful and present to what is going on. We are used to, moments of silence when tragic happens, but we are really poor at teaching people what to do during that moment of silence. I'm just sitting there not saying something. So what's that going to do anything? See, that moment of silence would be very useful if you do an affective reflection on how you feel. So Celine, when I read your post, I feel sad with you. I do feel sad. It is horrific. It is horrific to go out to do something that you do every day, and then someone will pull a gun and then they will shoot you. It is horrific to be worried about sending your children to schools. That is unthinkable. Okay, that is very, very sad. And no wonder you would feel that, you feel pain and anger and sadness. Those are all very, very real. And that's why I didn't immediately offer you an answer. I myself want to take a moment to sit with that pain, that anger, the frustration, and that sadness. When I sit with that and reflect on it effectively, there might be things that then come to me, and there might be things that then come to you, but only you would know that if you give yourself that time. Okay, so what came to me, Celine, for your question is, first of all, looking after yourself is the most important thing. There's no point of anything if you do not have self-care. Okay, so if that means you needing to not have the 24-hour news cycle, then so be it. I have to confess myself, living in Australia, there is 2 news channels that I adore. Okay, is the SBS World News and the Australian Broadcasting, so ABC News, SBS and ABC. They are the love of my life when it comes to news channels. Before the Ukraine war, I would watch SBS News at 6, I think it's 6 o'clock. 6:30. SBS News go from 6:30 to 7. ABC News 7:30. ABC News go from 7 to 7:30. I'll watch SBS from 6:30 to 7 o'clock, and then ABC from 7 to 7:30. Ever since the Ukraine war started, not ever since it started, I think a few months into it started, I realized I actually cannot do that. It's too difficult for me to watch a half an hour international news on how horrific what is happening, and then to watch local news. So I have to switch off SBS News because ABC does report on Ukraine. I still read them online, but I just can't sit through a half an hour session of having auditory and visual bombardment of all the cruelty that's happening around the world. So that is my way of self-care. It doesn't mean that I do not care. It's not self-indulgence, but it's preparing yourself and looking after yourself so that you can make a difference. So once you're able to look after yourself, Celine, then that is the time for you to then contemplate what role can you play in this process, big or small, any role. Yep. You can do that. You can do that through volunteering. You can do that through your community. You can do that in any way, shape, or form. But looking after yourself is the first thing. Then while you're looking after yourself, you start to clarify what is it that makes you felt this particular way, and what can be done for those particular things. And when you say it can be done, it has to be within your ability. Okay. Because if you want to change the gun law, you have to be a congresswoman. And I wish you all the best. You might have an opportunity, but probably that's not going to happen in the next week. Okay. So you just need to think about what are the things that you could do, and then do it step by step. Like, for instance, I'm frustrated with the health system. I'm frustrated with how the patients are being treated. I'm frustrated with how little ability a lot of doctors are able to connect with their patients. What do? I become a medical educator. I've since graduated over 1,000 medical doctors in Australia. 1,000. Imagine that 1,000 doctor, if half of them do what I teach them to do, that's 500. If each of them see 20 patients a day, how many patients in my life am I impacting on every day? 1,000. If they work 5 days a week, 5,000. Put it into a whole year, 50 weeks, 250,000 people from me to 250,000 people a year. This is how you make changes, step by step, in the way that you could. Okay, so hopefully I answered your question, Celine. Okay, so Nadine, how to talk to children about death of our pets? That is actually a great topic to engage the children with. Pets death is always really good for the first step before you talk about human death. But Nadine, the question is again back to you. What is your belief system around death and dying? What sort of belief system do you want the children to have? It's because there's no one size fit all. You have to first understand what is your take on it. And do you want the children to just take on what you think it is? Or do you want the children to explore it? Do you want to give them opportunities? So there's actually a lot of good comic books out there. What we call that illustration, you know, books with words and then there's beautiful pictures. Do I have that here? I should have some over here. Can't see it now. Oh yes, I found one. Just a sec. That's the good thing about working from home. So I have to temporarily remove my screen protection so that you can see what is, so my virtual background, we have to switch off. So be prepared to see the background of my room. It's not really that bad. Okay, so this is the book. Yep, it's about the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. Okay, so it's just very simple things with a lot of drawings in there. Yeah, so you actually have children books that's like that. So what did it say here? Doing nothing with friends is never doing nothing, is it? Asked the boy. No, said the mole. Doing nothing with your friends is never doing nothing. Let's see if the book have anything else to offer. Just, what do we do when our hearts hurt? Asked the boy. We wrap them with friendship, shed tears and time, till they make hopeful and happy again. So that's the advice from the book. So those are actually good resources that you can find, and just in children's books. I traumatize the bookshop owner often. I actually would walk into the bookshop and I say, okay, do you have any books about death and dying? And the owner was like, yes, over there. or worse still, do you have any children's book on death and dying? It's like, yeah, some over there. So there's actually a lot of good resources out there. So that's what you could use, Nadine, to gradually ease people into that. If I, Emil, if I open up death to my senior citizen mom, she's going to kill me, haha. Well, I doubt that she'll kill you. Okay, Emil, you're such a lovely son. She's not going to kill you. Is your mom a Buddhist?
No, she's a Catholic.
Good. Then she's secured. She's going to heaven. Why do you have to worry about? She's got a whole system in place to make sure that she's going to go to heaven. She's well taken care of. The heavenly realm is real in the Buddhist concept. It's just that she's not going to be enlightened. But hey, you got time. You got time. So what you need to do, Emil, is to really purify your practice, become really, really super powerful. Then you go to heaven and talk to him. There's what Sakyamuni Buddha did in one occasion. He actually went up to heaven and preached to his mother and said, hey, mom, that's not it. This is like not even really starting it, but at least you're in a better place. But look at me, you know, like, well, you get light shining out of you, you know, clouds and rainbow flying everywhere. So this is the deal, hey, mom. So you need to practice Buddhism. So don't worry, if she's Catholic, that's great. Okay, and unless if she comes and asks you for guidance. So again, Emil, your role model is very important, because I think very often the question will be the question about people around you will be like, you know, what's going to happen to Emil? He's not going to go to heaven. Okay, he's not going to go to, well, according to Catholic, there's nowhere in hell you're going in there because you do not believe in God. Yeah, so that's when you tell your mom that, mom, according to the Buddhist teaching, in the Amitabha belief, in Amitabha Pure Land, what they do during lunchtime, they actually visit all these different Pure Lands around the galaxy, in the universe, okay? Not just pathetic solar system, okay? The whole universe, they roam around, okay? So he said, Mom, don't worry. During my lunch break, I will come and see you. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I guess, Emil, even though you are taking the risk that of your mom killing you, it's still very important to have that kind of conversation with our elderly parents about their health care. Okay, so it's not about them. You make it about you. Okay, again, you can use me as an example. You would say, oh, today I listened to this crazy Dr. Chen. He was talking about death and dying. And he told me that when his father passed away, his family member has to go through this process of deciding what his care model is going to be like. Because my dad has 2 strokes before he died. And we have to make a decision like, how far do we go? If suddenly his heart stops, are we going to resuscitate him? Are we going to put a tube into him to help him breathe? Are we going to use electricity to stimulate his heart to do cardiopulmonary resuscitation? So those are the questions that you want to ask your mom. You said, Mom, 1 is for relieving my stress. 2 is not to extend your suffering. So it's not about, a horrible death happen, whatever. It's not that. You simplify. You say, I need to know this so that I feel less stressed, that we can make a decision knowing that that is what you want, and you do not have to suffer unnecessarily. So it's actually good, isn't it? It's a good focus. So let's talk about your advanced health directive. Okay, this is one thing that you need to Google and find out. That is, I'm not sure, because this is an international conference. I do not know which country you're from and what the protocols are. But in Australia, there's actually a document called Advanced Health Directive. It actually asks all the very difficult questions, and that's when the person signs the document and appoint a power of attorney that is going to look after that person when they're suddenly not well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That is another way to start the conversation. And you say, we just need to go through this once, and once this is done, we don't have to talk about it until we need to. Okay, don't say anymore. Do not say you're not going to talk about it anymore. You just say that we don't have to talk about it until we need to. So when you decide that you need to, that's when you talk about it. Okay, so now, Yuling, so can you use this to help people with suicidal thoughts? Yuling, that is a totally different area. When I was doing my PhD, I actually worked in the Australian Institute for Suicide Research and Prevention. So suicide prevention is a really huge area by itself, independent branch of way of how do you engage with people with suicidal thoughts. There are resources out there, like for instance, Yuling, I have no idea where you're from. In Australia, there is actually a package called Mental Health First Aid. That means is to teach lay people about basic mental health red flags. What do you do when someone comes to you and say that they want to kill themselves? What do you do when someone comes to you and say that they have plans that they want to kill themselves? So there is actually resources out there that you can use. One thing is, it is very challenging if someone expresses suicidal thoughts to you. So try to look after yourself too. And it's very tricky that we all would immediately want to jump in and say, don't do it, don't be stupid, think about the people around you. All those are basic human responses. The more ideal way is first listen to the person, what their struggle is, instead of jumping in trying to fix them. Because if you reflect on your own experience, when someone tries to fix you, how does that make you feel? Do you go yippee yahoo if someone tries to fix you? Yep, I suppose no. Yeah, I can see Stephanie going like, So you shake your head. Yeah, just because I'm talking doesn't mean that I'm not looking at the screen. There's a reason why they want the camera on. So it's that you won't want people to fix you. So it's very important to listen to what is the reason, why is behind that, you know, and it's also important to understand where is your limitation. Okay, so looking after yourself is still very, very important. Okay, as I scroll down, I actually see that a lot of people's camera is not open. You only got another we only got, oh, it's 12. So what is the time now? It's 12:51. We started at 12 o'clock. So we only have like less than half. We have got 39 minutes left. So there's only 39 minutes left for me to see what you look like. Are you going to deprive me of this opportunity to, for my first of my life, to not know what you look like? Well, it's your decision. So anyway, back to what Hui Wen, you're laughing so happily. No one will believe you that you're in a talk on death and dying. But that is what I do. I make people laugh. I hope that I won't kill them in the process, but I make them laugh because life is full of challenges. Life is full of challenges, and we really need to be very nice to ourselves and each other. Okay, so now, so Junxin, is there such thing as good death? Of course. Is it bad to die? No, Junxin, if you're supposed to be dead, you should be dead. I mean, you don't want to drag on unnecessarily. It's really horrible. So you want to have a good death, which means that when it's time to go, you want to go, and you just want to go out with a bang, like, you know, go out with style, go out with as little struggle as possible. You do not want to hang on for the sake of hanging on, because it is very, very uncomfortable. Imagine your body is gradually shutting down, and what you do is trying to do everything to keep it going. It is horrific. So I'm not saying that you speed up the process. That's called suicide. You don't do that. But I'm saying that you can embrace the journey. This is the dying journey, and be okay with that. So what do you think happens after death outside the religion perspective? I have no idea. You have to ask those people who is not in the religious perspective. You know, like, I don't know. I'm just being a bit naughty there. Okay, first of all, different religion, different culture have different ways of looking at death and dying. Okay, it's not in our place to say right or wrong. It's not in our place of right or wrong. Even though as Buddhists, I mean, I am totally biased, but I own up to it. I do believe that Buddhism has the most complete structure and information around death and dying. Okay, first of all, when we think about death and dying from the Mahayana perspective, just look at our universal view in the universe. Okay, we have Amitabha Pure Land. We have all these different Pure Lands. We never thought that this will exist just because of this little lovely blue globe. Okay, as if some of you are aware that, you know, recently the most advanced space camera has sent back 5 pictures of the galaxy, like almost at the beginning of time. Yep. So that is how amazing Buddhism is. We know that the world is bigger than this world. The galaxy is bigger than the solar system. So when we think about death and dying, when we think about life and death, we have a more complete holistic scope of what it is. It depends on which area you want to look into. So what happens is up to the other person's interpretation. From our interpretation is, until you are utterly enlightened, you will continue to be in the wheel of rebirth. It's just going to be taking different forms, different lifetimes, different roles and different circumstances. It's not going to end. So it depends on where you're going to be at, and it's just going to continue. That is my view, or the Buddhist view. Okay. So again, how do you help people with suicidal thoughts? Looking after yourself is most important. There is a website that you can go and Google. It's called Are You OK Day. There's a movement in Australia when a person who actually died of suicide, and I think it's their friends and family, founded this movement called Are You OK? It's just a very simple thing of checking in with people. I actually do that often. So again, this is about applying what you learn. I do that often, that if I'm in a shopping center, if I'm in a car park, and I saw someone and they look really depressed, I'll actually go up to them and say, are you okay? You know, is there anything that I could do to you? And the other day, like last week, I saw someone in the shopping center at the corner, you know, like looking quite depressed and like all cut up like that. So I walked towards them and then they lift their head up. Oh, they're actually, you know, the person working at the shopping center with the shopping center t-shirt, they're just taking a smoke. So I walked away. But if it was not the case, I literally would be talking to them and say, how are you? Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do? But when you do that, you have to, again, take things into perspective, okay? Make sure that you're in a safe neighborhood. Make sure that the people that you're going to the shopping center know where you're going, because I do not want to get any one of you into trouble. So as you can see, whatever I do, you have to take in the big picture. It's not just being this, you know, very happy YAD, you know, just doing YAD things without thinking about consequences and your safety. That is no. Okay, your safety comes first. Your self-care comes first, okay? Because the real bodhisattvas are the one that's in the shrine. They're all really nicely dressed up and beautifully displayed, okay? You live in the real world. You need to take care of yourself, because there's no point putting you at risk while you're trying to help other people, where then you can't continue your journey if you get hurt, okay? Looking after yourself is most important. Okay, so Jinxing, I hope I answered your question by now. Okay, Muxian, I have found that the concept of impermanence, causes and conditions, and karma have helped me rationalize death. Yes, I find that very helpful too. However, in the end, I still find that I'm terrified of death, since it's something that is so unknown and we don't truly know what happens after death. So Muxian, you are still asking the question of death and dying from the point of view of your view with an attachment to yourself. Our biggest struggle, all the troubles that we have, is because of the attachment to self. So this whole thing about impermanence, causes and conditions, and Buddhist practice is actually to try to dilute your sense of attachment to your ego. The less attached you are to your ego, the less intense the experience will be about your lost. So like, for instance, I always think that I have many parents. I have my mom and my dad this lifetime, but it's just this lifetime. But I also have many parents, many teachers for many lifetimes. Some of you might be my parents, some of you might be my teacher in my previous lifetime, and we're meeting again online now. So when you're able to zoom out and broaden up the scope, instead of just honing into this is, you know, like, you know, that the creature in Lord of the Ring who says, my precious, he holds on to that ring, my precious, then there's a lot of suffering, very intense suffering, because you're so clingy to that one thing, that one very thing, that's so clinging to it. That's where the suffering comes. But then not being attached is a very tricky thing. It's because it has to be the non-attachment that comes from true understanding, is not a non-attachment that comes from avoiding the suffering of self. Because if you are avoiding attachment due to the fear of suffering of self, you're still attached strongly to the sense of self, and hence you will still suffer. Okay, so it's about non-attachment through realization, knowing that whatever it is, when we have the opportunity, we make the best out of it. When the opportunity ceases, we continue to make the best out of whatever that we can do down to the future. Like, for instance, I just continue to click on the thing, and there's still all these people not opening up their camera, and the workshop is going to end in 31 minutes. Am I going to be disappointed that they didn't do it? I tried, I invited, I provided the opportunity, I tried, but it takes two to clap and they did not respond, then I move on. So that is how you have to approach that. But if you think that, oh, I must have them all open the camera, I must have them all engaged, then you are making yourself suffer for no good reason, because the camera is in their hand. You cannot press it for them and it's still not open. So you let go. Okay, but that is letting go through understanding. Okay, so Muxian, practicing Buddhism genuinely is the key to liberating yourself from all that suffering. The more you practice, the more you truly understand what impermanence is. Okay, I see that there's still 12 new messages there, but I have to finish a bit more about my presentation. I'll come back to that because we only got half an hour left. Okay, so we were at when I was studying, when I was working in the medical school. Okay, and then so like I said, people still rock up to my talks, regardless to where I am at. So you can see that is my talk. There will be a few hundred people there. This is actually a youth camp too, talking about death and dying. So my books, you know, like again, people rocking up. This is the book that I published in Malaysia, Lai Qi Zi Ru, the calligraphic written by Master Xing Yun. And this was my last book tour in Taiwan, 2019, just before COVID. 贪生不怕死. So how do you make the best out of life without fear of death? This is my book launch in Singapore, and just that's just what I do. Okay, that's part of thing I do. And then in 2015, I finally got my PhD. Because I spent so long doing it. I actually spent 11 years doing my PhD. So when I got my PhD, I did a high five with the Pro Vice Chancellor on the stage. So with all this training on as a medical doctor, as a life and death scholar, and my PhD into death awareness, I then brought contemplative pedagogy into medical teaching. I teach my students how to combine mindfulness and affective reflection. Hopefully by now, the affective reflection part is clear for you. That is about, through your emotion, understanding what your value system and what your worldview is, and how can you have better understanding yourself. But the key thing is you need to do it with the support of mindfulness. You need to be present and be mindful so that you're aware, because if you're not mindful, you won't even know what hits you. So when you're mindful, you can see the impactive experience coming in and how you are reacting to it. Once you're able to tease that out, then you can choose to respond and not react. Okay, so this is actually a whole semester of content in 2 minutes, and it's actually a lifetime of practice. It's a lifetime of practice of being present to the challenges of life in a mindful manner. So I apply my teaching philosophy into research and teaching. So this is one of the posters that I presented in Washington a few years ago. Are you ready for your first clinical death? Preliminary analysis of reflective journal of insight into student experiencing of simulated clinical death. So I use death and dying as an impactive experience so that I train my students with mindfulness, and then they can then learn how to apply affective reflection onto it. So my own journey on death and dying, I mean, it started quite early because mom has always been sick, but the recent journey would be my mom being diagnosed with lung cancer about 6 years ago. Mom is in the blue outfit there. Okay, so we went through the process. You can see my mom is a very devoted Buddhist. So that's my sister and my mom. We try to have fun when we can. So this is one of the occasion when after her investigation, we still didn't know whether she's got lung cancer or not then, but that was after her investigation. We actually went and watched a movie, and we realized that we are the only 2 people in the whole cinema. So we took pictures, we had fun, and that is an example of, even though life can be challenging, you should not let it take away for your opportunity of having fun and enjoying yourselves in that journey. So this is the day when my mom has to go for her lung cancer operation. She would have half of her the left side of her lung being removed. And before we went to the hospital, we went to the Fogangshan Temple at Brisbane, Chongtian Temple, and we're very lucky that the abbess Jesan was there that day. So she had a chat with mom before we went into the hospital. So for those of you who asked the question around death and dying, this is us trying to role model how do you face death and dying, because she was 80, she would be 80. Yeah, she would be 80 when she went for the operation. An 80-year-old going for a major operation, which is life-threatening. And that is when your belief system becomes very important. Your religion becomes a huge support to yourself. So we went for religious support, before we went into the hospital. So she was taken into the hospital. This was the night before she operated. So again, a major operation at site. Okay, you can see that she's sleeping with a happy smile on her face. Maybe she was posting for the camera, but at least she still could sleep. That is where your practice shows. If you have been genuinely practicing, then those are the times where you can demonstrate that are you really able to let go. So she slept, and the next day we prepare her, and then this was the last picture I have of her before she went into the operation room. And it could be the last time I see her. Luckily it wasn't, but it could be. So the reality of death and dying is really real, and it's very naive of us to try to avoid it or not think about it. The only way out is in. The only way out of this is to embrace it. We have 24 minutes left before that the workshop will finish now. So that's her coming out of the operation into the ICU. So we spent time with her. And I would say, there's other journey, but I don't have time to go into it. I just have to say that now mom he's still with me. But because of COVID, I actually cannot enter to where she lives, because I actually still teach bedside teaching in the hospital, in the medical school. So just for security reason, I don't go into where she lives. So every now and then when I get to see her, I'll be talking to her outside at the garage while she's inside the house, but I try to call her every night. Every night we talk on FaceTime. So then the other thing that I mentioned earlier was my dad. So my father passed away last year, and today on the lunar calendar, he would have been dead for exactly 1 whole year. So this is to answer one of the questions. I didn't get to go home because of COVID. I was not able to say goodbye to him. The thing is, do I feel sad? Of course I feel sad. But am I so sad that I cannot operate? No, I'm still giving this talk. I'm mindful of my emotion, but I'm now here. You are the reason why I'm here. So I'm focusing on you instead of focusing on my own sadness. So what helped in me facing the death of my father? He passed away 2021, July the 27th. If you can see the words, the date on here. I said goodbye to him in 2004, because I finished studying life and death study in 2001. So 2004, when I decided to do my PhD in Australia, I still remember that night at home in Ipoh. I spoke to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm going to go and study PhD in Australia. And it's going to be very different from me studying in Taiwan because the holidays are different. So most likely I would not be able to come back home for Chinese New Year. That was really true. I haven't been home for Chinese New Year since 2004. So I nearly haven't been home for Chinese New Year for 18 years now, because the time just doesn't add up. Like January is where the semester starts in the medical school. So by the end of January, the whole program is already in full swing. And Chinese New Year is the beginning of the semester. There's no way that I could leave. So 2004, I had that conversation with him in the living room. I cried. I was really sad. I gave him a hug. I can still remember how it felt when I hugged him. Okay, so Emil, 2004, I say goodbye to my dad 17 years before he died. Yep. So, but I got it out. I said, Dad, I love you. I love you very, very much. And I'm really sorry that I probably won't be there because I do not know what's going to happen. I probably won't be there when you die. And if it's true, I wasn't there when he died. I was not able to. The last time I saw him was 2019. And there was a lot more sad story in there. And again, I'm aware of the emotion in me, but I'm not in tears at the moment. Doesn't mean that I don't feel the sadness, because the really sad part was when I went back in 2019 in October, he already started to not able to recognize me. He spoke to me about me. So he was very polite. He sat me down and said, so how are you? How have you been? So I told him what I did. And then it was like, oh, you do something very similar to what my son does. So I was so sad, but I tried to hold myself together and did not cry in front of him, because for a demented patient patient with dementia, if you do that, they get really confused. But eventually, he came around and realized that I was his son. That was one of the last few conversations that I could have with him still getting what I'm talking about. So life is full of challenges. Life is full of challenges. But just because I say that I'm sad when I think about my dad, doesn't mean that I'm devastated. Doesn't mean that I do not feel that he is with me in a very special way. Okay, so as a Buddhist, I believe that he is still somewhere around. He could be reborn as another person. He could be reborn in a realm where he could actually still remember who he was, or he might not be. But one thing that I'm determined that is I will meet him again. I will meet him again because, you know, I don't think I'm going to be enlightened anytime soon. So I'm going to stay here for a while. And I don't think my father is going to be enlightened anytime soon either. So we will cross paths. So the important thing is, how are you preparing to meet with this person again? So again, that comes back to your practice. It comes back to your self-cultivation. It comes back to you practicing good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Because if you want to meet your loved ones in a position where you could benefit them, then you better do a lot of good now and not do bad so that you end up in a worse situation. Having said that, it's very important because what I just said is borderlining calling spiritual materialism. What is spiritual materialism? Is that I do good, you know, I give you money so that I get a lot more in my next life. That is spiritual materialism. It's not ideal. It does work, but it's not ideal because it doesn't take away your suffering. Your suffering can only be eliminated through the cultivation of your mind. Okay? But as Buddhists, especially as humanistic Buddhists, as a Fogangshan practitioner, we always have to balance both in the cultivation of wisdom and in the cultivation of compassion and the creation of good affinity. If I hadn't have good affinity with you in the past, we won't be in this situation talking now. If you haven't cultivated good affinity in the past, you won't be even able to afford the computer to come online to listen to my talk today. We are very lucky people. We are very, very lucky people. I'm so lucky now that I can sit in this lovely house in Brisbane, have no problem going onto internet. There is no internet issue. Using my brand new work computer that I just got less than a month ago and doing this online lecture. All these things comes from the good that we did in the past. And you need to continue to do good now so that you'll be in a better position to bring more goodness, more kindness, more compassion, and more wisdom into this world. And as you do that, you are actually building up yourself. So when you zoom out and see life as this journey of becoming better, the life and death of one of those stages gets watered down. Yes, you will still be sad. It will still be really, really sad that death and dying happens. But when you zoom out, it is not the first time we die. It's not the last time we die. It's just numerous transitions that we will go through as we travel and journey through life on the path of enlightenment, on the path of becoming a humanistic bodhisattva, on the path of being a useful human being and bringing all these amazing gifts that Sakyamuni Buddha has given us, that our Grandmaster has created this amazing platform for us to flourish. And we'll keep doing this for many, many lifetimes to come. Because in the Buddhist belief, the Maitreya Buddha is the coming Buddha. So some of us will have decided that we want to be there when the Maitreya Buddha come to this world. We want to be there to continue the propagation of Buddhism. Why? Because Buddhism is that key to liberate suffering. It's not about right and wrong. It's not about I'm better than you. It's about what can we do to eliminate suffering in this world. So I always end my talk with these 3 slides. So I'm going to do this first and then quickly answer whatever question that's left. If I can't answer the question, I'm really, really sorry. It depends if you're eager enough, inundate the organizers with your requests, and then maybe they'll maybe convince me to do a video record of those answering those questions for you. But you have to inundate them, so that to show that, oh, I really want this. Okay, so this is a nurse in Australia. He cared for terminally ill patient, and these are the 5 points that she learns from her patient. Her patient said, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Again, the way out is the way in. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. So I'm determined to finish this workshop at 1:30 my time because it's my Sunday. But this is not work. I do enjoy it, but I do have other things to do other than going online talking about death and dying. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Affective awareness, affective expression. How do you express yourself? I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. So make contact. You can be very, very busy, but keep making contact. I have 5,000 Facebook friends. Oh, no, actually 4,900 and maybe 60 or 50. I've got over 1,000 friend requests sitting on my Facebook, which I wouldn't look at because I'm not able to be friends with them. But anyway, what I do is I try to send them happy birthday message during their birthday. So they will hear from me once a year. And that's when I catch up with them. It's still a lot of work. You guys sometimes have to send like 10 or 20 happy birthday messages on a daily basis. Okay. I wish that I had let myself be happier. There is no one that has control of how you feel. You are the only person, the only one person that can decide how you feel. So please do not surrender that to anyone. Do not let anyone make you feel like shit. Be happy because that's your decision. Okay. So this is one of my friend. Unfortunately, he passed away during COVID. So you can see he died on the 2020 in April. And John Flynn, that is what is important to him when he realized that he was sick. Health and happiness, wife and kids, home and necessary assets, work and community, and caring and sharing. So what is important for you? Knowing that our life would all end, what is important for you? For me, the important thing is to be a useful person. That is the motto that I live with. And as an educator, my philosophy is I want to teach the way that I wish I was being taught. That's why I encourage you to ask questions, because I would have hated if I just sat there and talked the whole 1.5 hours without interacting with you. So through the journey of life and death as a thanatologist, a deaf scholar, and my parents' sickness and death, and mom now continuing to live with her cancer, these are the things that I learned. Early exploration and conversation on life and death is important. So please use me as an example to start talking about death and dying with people that you cared for. Paperwork should be dealt with. Okay, your advanced self-directive, your will, anything that you own, how you want it to be treated, do the paperwork. Living at the present moment is essential. Okay, going in is the way to come out. Constant reflection on thank you, sorry, I love you, and goodbye. So that is what we tell palliative care patients when they're at the end stage of their life. They want to give thanks to what they're thankful of. They apologize for what they've done wrong. They express how they feel, and then they can then say goodbye. That's where the good death comes in. Good death can only happen if you have thanked, apologized, and expressed. So I thank you for your time and attention. I'm sorry if what I said is not what you wanted. As being in the Dharma family, I care for you. I hope you're well. And in another 11 minutes, I'll say goodbye to you. As prepared as you are, it can still be overwhelming. Like I said, I said goodbye to my dad in 2004. When he died in 2021, I was still sad. I'm still sad today, especially when it's his anniversary. But I think, I think I've done all I could to make him proud as a parent. And I think I'm on the path where when I meet him again, we'll definitely be in a better place. We all respond differently to death and dying. Surround yourself with support. You need to ask for help when you need it. You need to ask for help when you think you need it. Okay, do not wait until you're going to fall apart to reach out. You need to reach out when you think that things are not going well. And remember what is important to you. What is your big picture? In the process, look after yourself and be gentle to yourself. And when you have the opportunity, do what I'm doing now. You share your experience. Okay, so now let's see. Oh, they're all just saying thank you. Yes, that's the are you okay? Okay, Amil, how do you prepare about your own death? Well, I think I answered that question. So that is a very good question, Amil. I thank you for asking that. I'm not going to go to Amitabha Pure Land. I want to go to Mitraya's Buddha's Pure Land, because Mitra Buddha is the coming Buddha. It's not good or bad. You can still go Amitabha if you want. I just prefer to stay a bit closer. Because I think I have a very strong connection with the beings here in this world, in our current world. And like, for example, I never thought that I was going to become a medical educator, not in a million years. You know, when I decided to leave medicine, I never thought that I'd become a medical educator. So now I've educated over 1,000 doctors. If according to life expectancy, I would still have nearly 40 years in this world, living in Australia as a privileged first world country citizen. So I will continue to cultivate and make things happen, to make connection. I don't want to bugger off to Amitabha Pure Land and leave all this behind me. I'm coming back. So, but I also don't want to immediately come back, to jump into all these challenges again. So I'll go to a Pure Land that's not too far, which is the Mitraya Buddha's Pure Land, or Mitra Bodhisattva. He is the Buddha that's going to come. So I'll be at Doshuai Tian if they allow me to go in. And plus, if you go and Google the Mitra Buddha's Pure Land, it actually has a lower selection criteria. Because yes, it's got a lower selection criteria, so it's actually easier to get in. It's like community college. It's not Sandstone College. But look that up. Master wrote something about it. Actually, I sent it to my mom recently when I was talking to her about. Let me just look it up. I sent it to her recently about what the master wrote about Mitraya, the Mitra Buddha Pure Land. So that's the other thing, be a positive influence to the people that you love. So I don't just talk to my mom about random things. I actually send her text messages. I share with her things that I think that's important. If there's anything that I found, okay, so there you go. So where is that? Mitra Buddha. I think. Where is that? Yeah. Okay. So this is what I think this is what the master wrote. So with Mitra Buddha, there's a few benefits of the Mitra Buddha Pure Land. First of all, I'm not saying that you don't go to Amitabha Pure Land. You go wherever you want to. Okay. So in the Mitra Buddha Pure Land, you can go before you have cleared all your defilements, like all the things that bothers you, okay? So you can actually carry that with you to the Pure Land, okay? So the other thing is, you can enter into the Pure Land in a lay form. So you do not need to be a monastic, Of course, you don't need to be monastic to be in the Amitabha Pure Land. But if you want to be born at the highest rank in Amitabha Pure Land, you need to be a monastic. So that's the other one. So in the Amitabha Pure Land, Amitabha Sutra, it says that your mind has to be totally focused and settled in order to be born into the Pure Land. 一心不乱, that means there's no shakiness in your mind. But in Mitra Pure Land, you do not need to attain the total focusness. You can still get there if you just chant Namo Tang Lai Xia Shen Mi Le Zhen Fo. So I pay refuge to the future Buddha Mitraya. Okay, and of course, in the Amitabha Pure Land is quite far away, even though it's just a split second. You know, like see, Buddhism created the time warping of Star Trek way before Star Trek has been created. So it's like 10,000 亿佛土. I don't even know how to translate that into English. It's far, far away, you know, like light years away. But Mitra Pure Land is actually within this world. Okay, so it's actually the Pure Land nearest to samsara. So of course, comparatively, the Amitabha Pure Land is much nicer. It's like six-star hotel, but Mitra Pure Land is definitely better than where samsara is. So the other thing of Mitra Pure Land is it's easier doable because it's so close, and it's something that you do not need to be totally ultimately clearly focused to be there. All you need to do is to have the strong intention, and then you will be able to do that. So I encourage you to search for it. This is just me reading out what I sent my mom about a month ago. So thank you for the question, Amil. But I don't mind having tours to Amitabha Pure Land, but I just prefer to stay closer. Okay, so there you go. 3 minutes before the workshop totally dies. So is there any other question that you want to ask before we finish, and you will not regret for the rest of your work of your life? Should we chant the name all the time to go to our next destination after death? Li Chun, is your daily practice. You have to decide what you want to do. Okay, you have to first figure out which Bodhisattva, which Buddha that you resonates with the strongest. I know it's a very difficult question because we are all very different. Took me a long time to figure out, because when I first started to learn Buddhism, I want to go to I want to follow the boss that has the biggest influence. Then throughout many years, I realized it's actually not about how influential your boss is. It's about what connection you have with that. Your connection is actually more important. Yep. So you have to the way to do that is to understand what are the aspiration of those bodhisattvas. So Kuan Yin, what is the aspiration of Kuan Yin? Like Amitabha Buddha, he's got 48 wishes. So what is his 48 wishes? And the medicine Buddha has his wishes. Sakyamuni Buddha has the reason why he was born in this world. So you go to the text and try to figure out what the reason that they're here, and think about, does that resonate with you as an individual? If it does, then you practice that way of practice. Okay, should we? So we can conclude the definition of die as working in peace rather than rest in peace. Yeah, well, it's always work until you're enlightened. Okay, and even you're enlightened, there's still going to be work. So I see that as endless continuous growth with all these amazing people who are amazing practitioners there to support you and grow with you. We're very lucky to be in the Buddha Light International Association big family. We're really lucky to be in the young adult division. We're very, very lucky to be able to listen to Buddhism in this lifetime. So I'll end with sharing one last story. Hopefully I finish that in 1 minute. Is that when I was your age as a YAD, one day the Grandmaster was talking in one of the international conference. I saw a fly attached to his rope. I was so envious of that fly. I said, you can be so close to the master, and we have to stay a distance. Then within a second, I realized there's no point staying close if you do not understand what the teaching is. So I hope you remember that the only way out is in, and the way in is practice. Auspicious to all of you. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chen, for giving us this wonderful, meaningful, and humorous presentation and answering all our questions. Thank you so much. Dr. Chen taught us to have the right views towards our common goal of death and dying by liberating our attachment to our ego. I believe we now know that I don't need to be afraid of talking about death and dying, and we should live positively at every present, right? And I wish we can all be at ease and embrace every birth, old age, sickness, and death. So thanks again, Dr. Chen, for your time and sharing. I hope we could have more lessons from you and see you very soon in the near future. And please excuse me for not doing it in the beginning. So let's do it with our love and respect. Please join our palms and half bow. Thank you, teacher. And let's wave our hands.
If there's any joy and insight that you created, may share this affinity to all beings. May all beings be well, happy, peaceful, and prosperous.
Thank
回向功德
you.
very important.
Thank you. Let's wave our hands to show our love. Thanks to Dr. Chen. Thank you. And have a nice weekend. Thank you. And that's not the end, everyone. Okay. Thank you. So here's an announcement I like to make. Please stay here for a bit. The next session will be general session, 综合报告 and closing ceremony. So which will be started at 12:30 p.m. Taiwan time. It will be an hour later. So we would like you to go to the registration system again to sign up and get the next Zoom link. So this room will be closed soon, and we'll need you to go into the next room 20 minutes earlier. That's 12:10 for a better preparation for the general session and closing ceremony. So we'll take a break here, and remember to sign up.
Before we take a break, can we do a group photo?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, let's do a group photo.
Okay.
And now for those of you, this is your last chance to have your camera open.
Yay.
And you probably need to stop sharing the screen.
Okay. Dicky, can you help us?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll form the lotus mudra. Okay, let's form the lotus mudra first and say thank you. Yay. Okay. Do we have another one?
Yeah, I'm up to you.
Oh, then let's have okay. Oh, let's have oh, okay. 随便 like a love. A love?
You mean be
Join
spontaneous?
I'll be spontaneous. Okay. 我说智慧与创新，耶！
Okay, well, thank you very much. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Have a nice day. All right. Thank you. Don't forget to sign up to get the next Zoom link. So this link will, this Zoom will close very, very soon. Hope you have a nice day and see you soon. Bye bye.
时间按下停止键，感觉生命也被冻结。那些面对的一切。
We'll meet you at 12:10 in the next session.
人生的游戏，扭转世界变成可能。初心永远在心里面，看不清楚也要坚持向前。不要 再害怕，森林中盘旋，黑夜白天在一之间，快乐为身边，心情跟着飞，看你能不能 Come on never give up Come on come on come on never give up Come on never give up Come on come on come on never give up Come on never give up 佛陀轻声地说迷雾在一念间，没有任何困难无法改变。
那我关会议室喽。
好哦，谢谢大
好，
家，
谢
谢
谢。
你，谢谢我 Dicky，还有拜拜魏斌，
谢
拜，
谢，拜拜，
呀，拜拜。
拜拜。
放饭了，放饭了。
我要去上厕所了，拜拜。
拜拜。
我们还在问诊，然后整天。